David Goss and Andrew Reeby here at the Stub Hub Center in Carson, California for the final match of the final day of the 2017 MLS Player Combine here on MLSsoccer.com. It's Team Chaos in orange going right to left, facing off against Team Tango in red going left to right. A lot of excitement between these two teams. In red for Team Tango in goal, Stefan Cleveland out of Louisville. A three-man back line for this one. Number 78, Walker Hume at the left center back spot. The Generation Adidas player, number 71, Miles Robinson in red at center back. And Brian Nanasinkum here on the ball, number 73. The wingbacks out wide right on the bottom of your screen, Reagan Dunk at number 68. And out wide left, Matej Dekovic, number 61. The central midfield, the holding two of Joe Holland and Sam Hamilton. In front of them, Brant Bronico. And up top, the two forwards, Jonathan Lewis and David Goldsmith. A whole new lineup for this Team Tango, Andrew. And a few players moved around in positions that maybe they're more comfortable.
I want to see Reagan Dunk here at kind of this right wing back position. He's one of the most highly rated outside backs in this draft. But I also want to see Miles Robinson under pressure. I know that sounds strange to say when you're watching a game. I want to see this team maybe struggle a little bit and have chances created against them, but I want to see him in 1v1 defending situations, emergency defending situations, organizational situations where he has to guide that back line, because that's what teams want to see.
Clip ball to Chris Nanko, and his volley goes wide. For the team in orange, Team Chaos, Robert Moves in goal at a Duke. Right to left on that back line at right back, Michael DeGraffen right, Robbie Sagel, Francis DeFries, and Colton Storm at left back, number 93 in orange.
It looks like actually it's McConnell,
Billy McConnell,
rather than Storm, who's playing left back, so number 84 in orange.
Billy McConnell throwing everything off for quiet little David Gossin.
This is the Combine. You know, we thought there'd be half-hour halves here. They ended up being 40-minute halves. You've got some changes to the lineups given. That's the way these things go. It's informal. It's an honest opportunity here, though, for coaches to take a look.
As I mentioned, number 85, that early volley, Chris Nanko out of Syracuse. Chris Weehan, number 95. And Tanner Thompson, number 94 in central midfield for Team Chaos. Up top, the big man, 6'5", Nick Depew, and Jorge Gomez Sanchez out of Temple University, who scored their lone goal on the first day of competition. Nick Depew was one of the big players talked about coming into this combine. Andrew, 6'5", has played center back in college, finished at center forward, had a junior year where he scored 15 goals, and a senior year where he scored about 6. And there was question marks. Was he a center forward? What could he do at that forward position? What have you seen from him so far? What does he need to show today?
I don't think those questions have been answered just yet, and that's, once again, a team-specific scenario. He's not looked like a game-changer necessarily at forward in this Combine, and he won't be that in MLS, but you want to see the little things, the hold-up play, the ability to finish when given the opportunity. He had a header opportunity in this last game, the previous game, that he wasn't able to put on frame, and with his size, with his stature, with his profile, those are chances he needs to at least test the goalkeeper on. So still a question mark there for me.
Look, he needs to be Alan Gordon, straight up, and that means holding the ball up and connecting passes and being goal dangerous. And maybe he's not there yet. Maybe he gets there eventually.
Tanner Thompson with the free kick in the box. Depew with the header.
And just as I say that, Yeah.
Put it on frame at least. Step one.
Nick Depew out of UC Santa Barbara trying to make his name here to get to the next level. An Irvine, California native. The rain coming down here at Stub Hub Center. Carson, California. We've heard many complaints about the weather, of course. It's snowing in New York, so we're not having much issues with it.
Saw Stu Holden upstairs. He said this reminded him of Blackburn. So a few people say it's perfect soccer weather.
Can he do it on a cold, rainy day in Carson, California is the cliche that has held American soccer back.
That was low-key a nice little moment right there for Francis DeFries, who one of the few defenders who didn't get absolutely torched by Jonathan Lewis for quickness in tight spaces. Put that in the notebook, I think, for the big Kiwi.
DeFries didn't start the first game when this team in orange, Team Chaos, struggled with their defending. Came on in the second half, they were calmer. I thought he was very good in the second game, starting at center back alongside Brandon Aubrey, a player who has maybe done some good stuff for his potential draft status.
I agree. I think DeVries has done more than just about any central defender other than Abu Bakar. But we did just see, again, a nice little layoff right there from Depew, who seems a little bit more focused in this game than maybe he was in the first two outings.
Jorge Gomez Sanchez and Chris Nanko running off of Depew up top for this team in orange. Jonathan Lewis here, number 70 in red. Generation Adidas player, played just 1 year, a freshman year at University of Akron, had 12 assists this season, just 3 goals before finally deciding to go pro. He beats the first defender, can't find a teammate, and it's finally cleared by Sagel.
And that's why he dropped that shoulder, and you think, oh, maybe he'll get a step of separation. About 4 steps of separation.
That was quick, wasn't it?
Yeah, you want to see a little bit better final ball, but the right instincts, the right beginnings to that play, and the final piece is, of course, what separates a lot of players that move up to the pro level. When you get an opportunity like that, you've got to either find your teammate or put the back line under pressure.
Bronico putting pressure on there. Brant Bronico out of Charlotte was a bright spot in the first game. Has moved around a little along that front line, but seems to be one of the most talented attacking players. So he lays this ball off for Goldsmith. Goldsmith into the box for Lewis. Lewis one-on-one with the keeper, and he can't finish.
Just not quite there for him. If he just takes that step and lets it roll to his left foot, that's an easy finish, but he wants to be on the right in that scenario. It seems 3 touches there, probably not what you wanted. That should have been a goal.
And you could see that he was just dying to make that run, and he couldn't quite hold it up the step that he needed to. A little more patience and a little more savvy there, and it'd be 1-0 Team Tango.
David Goldsmith wide open in the box, though, or getting away on that run. He had 2 goals in the first game, linking up with Jonathan Lewis. Both of them have played on the wing the entire time in this competition or in this combine. I keep saying that, but now getting the chance to play up top and show off a little what they can do as potentially a forward at the next level. Bronico with the interception puts it out. Team Tango in red. Side filled with a number of Generation Adidas players. And a few seniors that had a lot of interest coming into this one. Walker Hume at center back. Doyle was a player that was being discussed a lot. Reagan Dunk at right back was in the top conversation at right back coming into the draft. Where do those two stand for you as of now coming into this final day?
I mean, honestly, Reagan Dunk has been hurt by the fact that other guys have had stronger combines at his position. And right now he doesn't look to have the type of versatility to maybe play on the left.
How many of these right backs have shown that versatility, though? We've seen a lot of guys.
That's true. I don't think I would be comfortable with any of them in particular on the left, but Duiachim, Norwinski, and Storm.
Holland with the corner kick into the box. It's punched away by Cleveland.
Have all looked like more complete players than Dunk, and you can make the argument that Jones from
through ball here from Jorge Gomez Sanchez. Running up the side is Ethan Cutler. Cutler now with the step on Miles Robinson, and he blasts the shot high.
But Robinson able to push him out just a little bit, and sometimes it's those little moments defensively that are different between a goal-scoring opportunity and a ball that hits about row H. Yeah, he got beat, but he had the catch-up speed there to get back to him, and you push him just wide enough, put him under pressure enough. That can be the difference between a goal and, a routine goal kick coming up.
Brian Nanasinkum, 2 national championships with Stanford. We talked about in the beginning of this week, one of the most impressive human beings here. His father from Cameroon, the work he's done in terms of nonprofit work, in terms of his background in engineering. An awkward moment there for Cleveland, and he earns the foul. Pressure put on by Bronico. You look at those intangibles when you think about a team drafting and drafting late, and now with the USL teams, a guy like Brian Nanasimkum, if you could put him at center back around a bunch of young kids from your academy, wouldn't be a bad pickup for an MLS team.
Sinkum's had a tough start, though, and he had a good college career, but that doesn't always translate here. He's also playing in a strange backline configuration for him here with Miles Robinson and Hume next to him. None of these guys have played together, so you ask him to take a little bit of a chance
Ball played into the box. Bronico with the second chance, and it's just wide. Pushed away by Francis DeFries.
You put him in a little bit of an unusual scenario, and the communication, the responsibilities are different. That's not easy for these young players. Are we giving that as an intentional back heel from Lewis? Or are we saying that was a little bit lucky?
I think that one was a little bit lucky.
Corner kick curled in, headed away at the near post.
It needs to be said that that whole sequence began with a nice ball out wide from Joe Holland, who, in my mind, was the best player on day 2. He sort of picked up where he left off now on day 3.
For ETR fans, is he a Julian Boucher type player?
Yeah, you could say he's a little bit of a Julian Boucher type of player,
a
for
little
sure.
Boucher in him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Free kick coming now for Team Tango.
Just take a sip of coffee. It's a little early otherwise.
Depends on where you are. It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Brant Bronico with the right foot, and he'll take this shot, bangs it off the wall, comes to Holland. Nanasinkum clipping it to that far post. Ball brought down by Team Tango. Shot comes away just wide of that upper 90. Good opportunity, though, for this side in red. David Goldsmith out of Butler University, PDL champion with Michigan Bucks, the one who misses that one.
Trying to add to his goal-scoring tally there. And day 3, we've seen much more quality in the attacking third than we saw in the previous 2 days. Some really nice goals, some good movements from both these teams. Just not quite the final touch there from Goldsmith.
Nanasinkum with the header away. Goldsmith playing up top in this game, battling with DeFries.
Can we just right now agree that if he plays in MLS this year, his nickname will be the Big Kiwi?
I don't know. I kind of feel like we could do better.
Andrew, you always want to lock into something.
Lock it in.
Something so basic.
Oh, come on.
I
like the Big Kiwi.
I believe in better for you. Dunk getting down the line. The Big Kiwi with the interception.
See, you're already buying in.
No, I'm
Rolls
not
off
in.
the tongue.
Nanasinkum will throw this one in. Luis Robles right below us. Down the street with U.S. Soccer, taking some time to come over and hang out and watch these players play. Miles Robinson, a U.S. U20 player. Jeremy Ebo Bise's played some time with the U.S. U20s. Jonathan Lewis, a late-blooming U.S. Youth International. A number of players that played in college soccer at the U.S. national team right now. A number of these guys in the next 5 or 10 years could be part of that program as well. Good turn in midfield, and pushing up the field now is Tanner Thompson. Robinson with the interception. Andrew, you said you want to see him get attacked a little. He's been fairly well defended throughout the combine. A little more work to do so far these opening 15 minutes.
Yeah, and that's what you want to see. I mean, it's not all about team performances here. I mean, this is ultimately an opportunity to evaluate individual players, and the team aspect goes into that, no doubt. There's the Big Kiwi with a nice cut. But I do want to see Miles Robinson in positions where he's got to track players, where he's under pressure, where he's got to react to runners around him, and where there's space to deal with. And I think so far he's done a pretty good job. The other thing with this center back spot in the 3-man back line, he's got to be an organizer. He's got to talk to the guys around him. He's got to make sure that midfield is dropping to the right spots and helping in the right spots. And that's something that'll be hard to tell from up here in the box, but I'm sure MLS coaches will be down there listening to hear how he communicates.
Robinson forced into an emergency clearance there. All 22 of our Major League Soccer sides here for this one. There are 22 teams in Major League Soccer. I bet you no one could even name them all here in this booth.
Oh, I bet not.
A number of teams trying to find players to make a difference for their team. Of course, 2 teams in Minnesota United and Atlanta United trying to start promisingly on the front foot in their franchises and clubs all time.
And if you're listening right now, carve out some time later in the day. We have an Extra Time Radio special out now with Adrian Heath, about 25 minutes with the head coach of Minnesota United FC. An absolute legend, one of the best media personalities in Major League Soccer. He talks about the number 1 pick, about arriving in Minnesota, about what he hopes to do with the Loons. And then we also sat down with Darren Eales and Carlos Bocanegra, the movers and shakers at Atlanta United.
Adrian Heath, a media darling. He's charmed you, Matt Doyle. You are high on Minnesota United coming into this first season so far?
Crush level charm? What are we talking here? Like,
I actually like what they've done in terms of their roster build. I think it's been, sort of steady and piece by piece. And I look at them and they have balance, and I think they have a couple guys who could be difference makers. I don't know exactly what we're going to get with Vahenas and Ramirez and Ibarra, but I think it can work.
Vegas, you mean? You're here at the LA Galaxy Stub Center, and you just want to go Pete Vahenas.
Yes, sure. Did I say it?
You went Vahenas, yeah.
Hume with the interception there. Walker Hume, number 78 in red at a UNC. Do they need to make a big DP signing, though? Does that need to be a part of this team this first year?
They don't need to make it right now. If they can make it in June or July, that's absolutely fine. And sometimes that can even work to a team's benefit. So I think they're being patient. And I think they're being smart. And again, I like the balance on that team, and I don't think the expectations. I think the expectations are too low for what Minnesota's done already.
Team Chaos with a free kick situation here, dangerous spot.
Tanner Thompson plays the service in. It's clipped over the top and out for what's coming. A corner kick for the team in red. Team Chaos. Once again, Tanner Thompson, Tommy Thompson's, of course, brother, the Thompson
older
family,
brother.
The last one to come through the MLS Combine for us.
Adrian Heath saying that there are more signings coming and more big picture signings coming. So, big picture, big name signings coming. So watch out in Minnesota. They have all 3 DP spots open right now.
Joe Holland gets the ball. He'll look to push it wide. Team Chaos able to keep it in the box. See if anyone can get a shot away. They finally do. To get a little bit more background on the MLS Player Combine, we bring in someone who was part of it, Bobby Warshaw. Bobby, thanks so much for joining us.
What's up, guys?
How you doing?
I'm good. It's a little cold today.
Oh, he's complaining about the cold.
Oh, these California guys are soft, man.
Not representing Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania very well, are you?
Hey,
You're supposed to be a tough guy.
We could have 3 MLS players out of Mechanicsburg after this draft.
We talked a little bit about Brian Nanasinkum, Colton Storm,
Yeah.
and you can name the third.
Josh Gross.
There you go.
For some MLS history for people.
What have you seen or what have you heard around the Combine? What do you remember from your Combine?
It's just an exciting time for these kids. It's just this is what you want, right? You work your whole life to play pro and to be in front of these coaches. Bruce Arena watching you and Ben Olsen watching you and Frank Gallup and all these people. It's an exciting time. This is what you dream for, to finally get in that atmosphere with all these people watching, all these people evaluating. It feels like your dream is finally coming true.
Is there sniping in the locker room at this point? Maybe between guys who haven't had as good a combine and guys who have maybe had good showings on the first couple of days, like maybe a little bit of jealousy?
Not at all, actually. People are really nice about it, but what you do see is the person occasionally looking at his phone, looking on his computer, and they always try and hide it. They always try and be cool about it. They always try and be coy. But you look over somebody's shoulder and they're reading somebody like MLS analyst reviews, who stocks up, who stocks down.
Nobody should ever read that.
And then it's a little weird because you go to dinners and you can see somebody in kind of a bad mood, and it's very clear that they read what their review was for that day.
What's it like being, they're at the hotel with the coaches, with the GMs, with all these decision makers. I see kids walking around, they're at their players' lounge, but the whole lobby is full of coaches, of GMs, making decisions about them. What's that like to look down in the lobby and be like, oh man, what's Ben Olsen's, what's Caleb Porter saying about me right now? I wonder what they think.
You just got to play it cool, you got to always act like you know what you're doing. So you want to be confident, but not too confident, but it's definitely on the kids' minds. For the most part, you do get butterflies when you see these kids, or when you see these coaches, you do get nervous, but you just want to play it cool the best you can.
What do you remember from your interviews? Because those are some of the most interesting. Dominic Kinnear told us he was asking players, and this was, of course, not the end-all, be-all of the interviews, but a little bit of a fun rapid-fire, what their favorite land animal was, what their favorite sea animal was, what were the weird questions you got, or the questions you got that you thought, boy, that probably has some real insight for these guys.
I'm curious what you guys think about this, because my take was, how big of a schmuck do you have to be to not impress a boss over a 10-minute interview? So I've always wondered, what do they really want to find? I mean, I can impress anyone for 5 minutes, right? It's after that the person should get a little worried. But the interviews, yeah, they were pretty bland. It was pretty much, is this person an idiot? Is this person a bad guy? For me, one thing they asked coming out of Stanford was, why should I trust that you actually want to play professional soccer? If you could do so many other things, why should I trust that you were going to put your heart and soul into this? I actually got that from all 3 or 4 interviews I had, and I'm not sure what I said to that. I kind of said, hopefully my body of work speaks for itself, but I don't know. I just think that the whole process was fun. It's fun sitting in a meeting with Jason Kreis or Adrian Heath or these guys you've looked up to your whole life, and to finally see them face to face. It's kind of a surreal moment for a lot of these kids.
Corner kick coming in here, the left-footed service for Team Tango. It's taken at the back post. As it goes along, as the week goes along, a lot of these guys don't really know each other. Do you become friends? Are there people from Combine that stay in touch? Is that a connection for these players?
Absolutely. CJ Sapong was my roommate at the Combine. We still say hi to each other. I'll still text him if he scores. Yeah, you definitely build relations with these people. They definitely become the people you cheer for, the people, even when you're out of soccer, you keep in touch with about, hey, what's your next project? What can we work on down the road? So I think that there's something about being in that vulnerable aspect of we're all a little scared, we're all a little nervous, and then if you bond, it builds a fairly strong bond that sticks with you for a while, which I've always thought was really cool. I really enjoy seeing the people and talking about these moments and having these relationships last.
Was there anyone in your Combine that stood out that everyone was like, wow, this guy's going to be a good player?
So we actually ended up having, when we went into our draft class, people were like, not a great draft class, but we've actually had, it's turned out pretty well. I think Jaleel Anibaba got do they still do a Combine Player of the Week?
Yeah.
Guys, who's getting it this week? Do we know? Is there an early leader?
I think probably Zico Lewis, maybe
Jonathan Lewis, maybe.
Jonathan Lewis. Daniel Johnson's been good. There's a few in the running. There's not one guy who's been head and shoulders above for all 3 games.
Yeah, so Jaleel Anibaba got our Player of the Week. But I think Justin Miram's stock went up that week. CJ Sapong's stock went up that week. I was a person. The Combine is near and dear to my heart because my stock probably went up this week.
Yeah, you crushed it.
I didn't crush it, but I was a solid center back, and MLS needs solid center backs. So actually, for me, having this really weird environment, I think this is true for another guy that I know, Brian Nanasinkum, to come in and have a natural leadership ability, someone who doesn't mind just talking and communicating and organizing. I think it's a chance for guys like that to show well because everyone's so nervous, everyone's so scared. So for someone to just say, guys, we're going to be okay, let's just get our shape, communicating to guys right, left, and making people feel comfortable is hugely advantageous, and it's a chance to show that skill for some of these players.
Depew trying to get on the end of that one. For you, Bobby, one of the things we've talked about with these players is a lot of them won't be able to play the same positions they did in college at the next level. How frustrating is it coming in here and not being put maybe in a position to be as successful as you think you can, knowing that there are other guys in your team that maybe coaches are more excited to see?
Yeah, that was kind of sad. We had a couple experiences of that where guys thought that they were going to play a certain position, and you're right. The coaches, the MLS coaches, I don't know if people watching understand this, but the coaches for the teams don't really decide who plays where or when. It's really the MLS coaches saying, I want to see this guy at this position. So you kind of have a general sense of where your stock is at the Combine based on how much you play, where you play. And for me, just on bad planning for MLS, I came in thinking I was going to be an MLS center mid. I probably wasn't fast enough to be an MLS center back, and yet I played every minute of the Combine at center back because they actually just didn't have enough center backs on my team. There was one I had played in college. So for me, I remember being at the Combine kind of wondering, what is this going to do to my stock? What's this going to do to my professional career? Do the coaches not actually want to see me at center mid? Are they talking about me? So there's definitely a mind game taking place on something small like what position you're put at or how many minutes you play.
Well, this is the final game of the 2017 MLS Player Combine. Tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern Time on MLSsoccer.com is the 2017 MLS Super Draft. Bobby, what do you remember about that day, that Super Draft?
I remember not being able to sleep that night. I've never been good at when I have a big event to be able to actually sleep or to sleep well. And I remember I woke up at 3 a.m. and I just got out of bed and got going with my day. And I actually wasn't even invited to the draft. The GA kids were there. There were a couple college seniors, but it was in Baltimore, which is about an hour from my family. And we really debated for the 2 or 3 days if we should go. And in the end, we decided we should. Might as well be there. It's an hour out of our lives. If I don't get drafted, I don't get drafted. I at least want to see what it's like. And if I do get drafted, I sure as heck want to be there and give a speech. The vain part of me was like, I kind of want to stand up there on that podium and, say thank you to people or to say screw you to the people that didn't pick me.
What'd you wear? Did you go with the NBA draft suit, or did you go a little bit casual? How'd you do that?
I'll be honest, guys. I went shopping before.
Oh.
We picked out. I can tell you exactly what the outfit was. I remember why we picked it because it was a special day. But no, I decided to not want to go with the trite suit. I went with the sweater and vest. I'm also just a sweater and a sweater vest kind of guy.
Little Mike Pecky in you, huh?
Yeah. Well, I'm more of I relate with Pecky more on the cardigan level.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I mean, we showed up to the draft, and the first thing the agent says hi to you, and of course your first question is, "What's going on? What's the word?" And he's like, everyone's keeping it close to their chest. They don't want to show their cards. And then, so going into the draft, it's probably far enough away that I can say this kind of thing. Going to the draft, you wonder, I could end up anywhere in the world, anywhere in America today. Where am I going to go? And I remember talking to my family, and I went to school in California. I grew up on the East Coast. I would have gone anywhere, and we were like, let's just not go to Texas. We're not big fans of the South. We don't know anybody in Texas. And we literally showed up to the draft saying, okay, we'll fine with, I think there are 19 teams at that point. We're fine with saying 17 of the 19 teams. Sure enough, my agent comes up to me right when the draft starts. He goes, hey, we talked to Dallas. If you're not gone by number 17, they're taking you. And at this point, I grew up a Ben Olsen fan. He was my favorite player, Central Pennsylvania guy. And Ben had told me if I hadn't been taken in the first round, I would have gone with the first pick or the second pick of the second round. So I was really torn. I was like, God, I'd love to be a first-round pick, but Texas, man. So sure enough, it came around. And I'll tell you, after you get picked, I will say it's the most – I would have given my soul to Dallas at that point. As much as I did not want to go to Texas, the second they pick you, the second they take a chance on you and put their jobs on the line for you, I think I would have taken a bullet for Shellis and Barry Gorman at that point. I'm not going to tell you that feeling lasted forever. But that first day, yeah, you really I would have done anything for those men in that moment.
Next month of these young players' lives, it's January 12th, preseason for most teams starting around the 27th of January, and then going on from there. What's it like, whether you get picked or don't get picked? What is the next process for them?
It's a little weird. So for the East Coast kids, they're going to go back home, and you're going to get ready for to live your dream, right? You're about to sign your professional contract. Well, some of them, I don't know if it's understood, some people, even though you get drafted, you could be a first-round draft pick, and if you're not GA or if you're not a senior deal, how many senior deals did they hand out this year?
About
5.
5,000, yeah.
Nobody else gets a contract right away. So what is that? That's 10 kids right there, and then there's another 10 that get drafted in the first round.
12 now.
12, and they still don't have contracts. Like, they don't know if half those other 12 will show up to preseason without a contract and still have to earn it.
Jonathan Lewis getting into the box gets the cross away, blocked out.
And really, nobody wants to cut their first-round pick, so you'll probably make it. But, that's a little caveat that these kids are first-round picks or second-round picks, and they still don't really have contracts until maybe the day they show up. So it's a little bit of a weird feeling not knowing how much money you're going to make, if you're going to get a deal. And especially now with all the homegrowns, even some of these first-round picks aren't making the team. So it's still a nerve-wracking couple weeks. Even though you just had this incredible moment of getting drafted, it's still an eerie feeling of not knowing where your life is going to take you.
You spent the last year in USL with your hometown team. What did you see from that level about, for a lot of these players, an opportunity for them? What's that career path like, or that chance to maybe continue their career and find a different angle into MLS?
I was very impressed and very happy with the USL level. it had been my dream. I grew up an MLS fan, a DC United fan. I'd always wanted to play in MLS. I kind of thought when the MLS opportunity passed that I would stop, but I would tell all these players, any player, to go play USL. It's a very good level. USL is essentially the 13th best player in every MLS roster. 1 to 11 MLS teams beat USL teams 3 or 4-0. But after that, USL is the same as the guys that are making an MLS bench. So the quality is very good. Other times the quality is even better because it's not the athleticism. It's a lot of the passing, the patterns, the flow is often better in USL. Granted, I say that acknowledging that MLS teams would often win. So a lot of these kids you see in the combine, majority, I mean, you guys know the general numbers. I mean, of the 80 kids here, how many will end up in USL? 60? And I think it's a really good way for these kids to grow. There's a lot of problems with USL with facilities and the everything around the soccer. But the general soccer itself is very good, and it's a chance for these kids to grow.
So what you're saying is no matter where you are in the U.S. or Canada, get out there and support your local team and go watch some soccer live.
That's exactly right. Well, what I tell people about you is that these USL games are often as fun, if not more fun, to watch than MLS games because the soccer is often more flowing. I mean, right now with the tipping point, the critical mass in MLS, it's still a more athletic league. It's still a more hectic league, and you don't see a lot of flowing soccer. And the USL can often offer that.
So these young guys, they go to USL, and of course they still have the MLS dreams. They want to get as high as they can in the pyramid and maybe even go overseas one day. Young guys need help developing. What's that like? What's the coaching like? How do they help young players along?
So this is what I loved about USL, actually. I like having that burden of that responsibility, but it's hard because the thing about USL is that, yeah, these kids have almost no professional experience. They don't know how to be men. They don't know how to show up early or stay late, or that their life is on the line. I mean, one of the cool things is that there's guys playing for very little money in USL, and it shows the passion that they have. But on the flip side of that, if there's not as much money on the line, there's not as much literally on the line. So while the passion is there, it's often like, do you guys know that if you don't stay after and get a little bit better, there's 100,000 kids throughout the world that will happily come take your job? So at times you have to tell them, you chose for this to be your profession. You chose to make this your full-time job. And if you don't put in the work and if you don't grind, it can be gone tomorrow. So, yeah, there is a steep learning curve. And honestly, some guys don't get it and are gone in a year. And some guys do and have good careers.
What's the one thing a young professional needs to do when they walk into that first training camp? What's a requirement?
Do you have to fight the biggest guy to prove that?
That's right, dude. You find the DP and you 2-foot him somewhere at the knee. No, the big thing is
that is a disclaimer. That no one
absolutely do not do that.
Definitely don't do that. Actually, it's funny. I went 2.5 years with David Ferrer, and I don't think I ever got within 6 feet of him once, just because I didn't want to deal with that. The number one thing I would tell a kid is just, it's very simple. Just be the first one in and be the last to leave, and from there you'll find things to do. Because if you tell yourself, I'm not going to leave before anybody else, and you'll be like, you know what, I might as well just stay out in the field. I might as well do a little extra lifting. I might as well run. I might as well go into the lounge and watch some film. So, yeah, it's very simple. Like, tell yourself that you're going to be the first one there and the last to leave, and then you'll figure out how to get better from there because you just don't know what else to do with yourself.
Why is that not part of college soccer? Why is that not obvious? Is it the class?
You guys would be very disappointed the level of – it's like people work their whole life, and the reason they make it to MLS is because they worked harder than everyone else. Then all of a sudden these kids turn pro, and it's like, oh, I did it. I got here. And the switch turns off. And the number of these homegrowns or these young kids who just don't work as hard as they should.
Great shot there. Curled off the bottom of the crossbar. Brant Bronico has put on a show throughout this combine out of the University of Charlotte. Curls a shot, basically no backlift from the top of the box, off the bottom of the crossbar, and Doyle, this one rattles in.
Yeah, I mean, I think Brant Bronico is probably one of those guys that Bobby's talking about in terms of has all the skill, maybe not the athleticism that MLS teams look for. I think he'll be in somebody's camp. And to me, he's the type of guy, if you're the Philly Union, you draft him, you give him a year with Bethlehem Steel, and maybe you see what you got if it can translate to a higher level.
What a recognition of the angle there. I mean, he had no space to get that ball through, and not just recognition, but the confidence in his ability to say, yeah, I got that curl. I got that bend. I'm going to find the top corner off the crossbar and in.
It's like Andrew Wiebe on the edit cue.
Oh, that's an insider reference. I thought you were going to go something skill-related. Bobby played pickup with us yesterday, and he saw the relative lack thereof from me.
There is some skills.
Scattered.
Wiebe's a nice, strong center back.
Jonathan Lewis lays this one off Bronico.
Because I'm curious from your end, how much will that goal at the last game of the Combine change his stock? Will somebody be, oh, wow, that's a piece of flair I didn't know that was there?
I think with Bronico, they know he plays at a school that produces pros, no stars yet, but some good players, and he's been making passes and he's been having nice ideas throughout. Yeah, as we see right
like
here.
Like this run right here, David Goldsmith trying to add to their tally.
He's been showing stuff like that the whole time. The fact that he finished the play, I think that matters to certain coaches, maybe more than others. But the thing is, and you know this, you've been around it, he's a 10. He probably doesn't have the speed to really play on the wings. He's definitely not a forward. He's definitely not a D-mid. And if you're a 10 coming out of U.S. college, you're going against the likes of Nico Ladero or Sebastian Javinko or Diego Valeri for your job.
Miles Robinson holding off Depew there and handling that situation well.
I do have another question I have is, Dave, am I allowed to put these guys on the spot?
You can do anything you want.
I may wiggle out. I'm just
to a certain extent.
If you guys had to pick one position in a super draft, what would you pick?
In this super draft, it would be center back. Absolutely. And really? I think we've seen and I think we've seen center backs that in MLS that have come out of college that can be a solid part of a rotation immediately. We've seen guys go to USL like Ken Tribbett for a year and come back and be able to be a solid part of a rotation. So I would say center back.
In this draft, I look at central midfield, but especially wing. But I think central midfield, when you look at the likes of Holland, even a guy like Shamit Shom, who is young and hasn't shown that well, but has some promise and has the GA contract. You're looking at Jackson Ewell. You're looking at a Gressel. There are guys in there, I think, that can play in MLS and may not be stars immediately, but have the ability to contribute. And then the wing, Doyle. I think that we've seen over and over that those guys are there.
Header in the box, not able to put it on frame. Another good look for Team Chaos. Ethan Cutler, the Colgate University alumni.
One of those guys who might end up being in the mix on the wing. This is the first combine I've seen where I'm saying, wow, there's actually a lot of wing depth. I think both Zako Lewis and Jonathan Lewis, Daniel Johnson,
Nico Hansen.
Russell Cicerone was not as good though over the couple games as I wanted him to be, but I think there's talent there. Cutler, I think, is probably a winger at the next level. That is the position.
Bad turnover in midfield. Jorge Gomez Sanchez with the shot, and he puts it over the top.
That is the position I draft, but to me, it depends on team need. It depends on the draft itself. It depends on where you've spent your money on a DP.
For you, when you played in college soccer, because we're asking coaches and players here, who were the guys that you faced in college soccer that went on to be good players, or maybe ones that were surprises, or ones that you faced them, you thought they would be good, and maybe don't go on to have a future?
Oh, gosh, this breaks my heart, because you know the best college player that I ever played against? It might have been, honestly, the best soccer player I ever played against. And
Zakawani?
Who?
Zakawani?
I did not think – no, Zakawani was gone already. And Nagby was very good. Really, that whole Akron team was pretty awesome. But, no, Danny Mwanga. Danny Mwanga was literally – there's no explanation of – man against boys like there was with Danny Mwanga in college soccer. He was bigger, stronger, faster. He was taking balls out. He was so good, and just the example of what a certain coach can do to somebody. You know, Peter Novak helped a lot of players, but just crushed Danny Mwanga. So yeah, Mwanga was one I would have picked. Kellen Rowe was fantastic as a freshman at UCLA. Those are the two that come to mind right away.
And that goes back to fit. Danny Mwanga, you can be as dominant as you want in the college level, but at the pro level and college too, you have to have the right coach. You know, it seemed like his confidence just got drained over the course of a few years in Philadelphia. And
I think his goals per year went from 7 to 5 to 2 to 0 to 0 to 0.
You even asked guys on that originally Philly team with Novak as the coach, and they thought he was the best player on it. He wasn't playing much for multiple reasons, GA status, don't want to push somebody too early, but he was the best player on that team, and just didn't go well after that.
Well, Jeremy Ibo Bise sitting on the top of this one. Abu Dunladi, Jonathan Lewis, Miles Robinson, part of the Generation Adidas class, as well as the two first Canadian Generation Adidas signings in Shamit Shom and Adonijah Reed. A new mechanism for these players. Jonathan Lewis gets called offside.
You want to see timing of runs. That's one of the things that coaches are looking for in this game, and Jonathan Lewis offsides a few times in a row here. That's something that they'll notice and say, that'd be something we need to work on with him, because that's where he'll be. He'll be riding that line a lot, most likely on the wing.
Yeah, different runs from him today because he is playing kind of as a second forward. So you could see I don't think it's as natural for him.
Angles are different for him.
You guys, do you think that Greg Vanny would have called in and asked them to play a 3-5-2? Is this fitting a need right now, or is this MLS teams wondering if they can do it when they've never really done it before in their lives?
It's a good question, and it's something that I think we should ask Ziggy Schmid when he comes on in the second half about that, because there aren't still a lot of teams that play 3 at the back in MLS. I think it was only 2 or 3 who even tried it last year.
Maybe in Atlanta United?
Perhaps.
That would be the
Tata
team
Martino
that you would think with Miles Robinson that would be looking at him in a position like that?
It also might just be a factor of, hey, this team has a lot of central midfielders and a lot of center backs.
And that's one of the things that Ziggy talked to us about in the last game was the inability at times to make these rosters balanced, and maybe it's better to play them in a 3-5-2, allow these 3 center backs to play on the field rather than force Nanasinkum to right back or Walker Hume to left back and get them the opportunity to play closer to their natural position than they would in another setting. Just about 2 minutes to go here in this first half. Team Tango leading Team Chaos 1-0. The goal from Brant Bronico. The last opportunity of these players' week for them to prove to these coaches that they deserve to go just a little bit higher in the 2017 MLS Super Draft. That'll come up 3 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow on MLSsoccer.com. And as Matt Doyle mentioned, Ziggy Schmidt will join us in the second half of this broadcast, as well as on that stream for the draft. You can get all of your pre-draft coverage on MLSsoccer.com throughout the week. Miles Robinson able to get this pass away. Goldsmith in a battle with Sagal. And then a free kick called back behind the play after advantage played by a referee. Bobby Warshaw, thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Thanks, guys. It was fun.
Bobby Warshaw, of course, as Andrew Wiebe mentioned, treated to the Megfest that was me and Andrew Wiebe's face-off
that's never going to go away,
out on
is
the
it?
field. Hey, Andrew, you know, game recognizes game.
Just call me Wickets. Just call me Wickets. I just want to establish, though, that it wasn't completely clean. It did hit me in the leg, so, maybe it was the wet conditions. I'm not sure what it was. I will confirm, however, that Dave threw the step over right before he put it through.
Miles Robinson steps into the play. And that'll be the last play of the first half. Brent Bronico, a gorgeous goal to give his team a 1-0 lead. We spent a lot of time picking the brain of Bobby Warshaw, but from the field, Doyle, what did you see? What stood out to you from that first half?
I saw what I expected from Jonathan Lewis.
Team Chaos 0,
He was
Team Tango 1.
explosive when he got out wide. He was a little lost in the middle. I love his first touch and balance. I think he's a guy who will go. I could see him going top 5 pretty easily. Bronico continues to impress. Joe Holland had a nice half, not as dominant as he was in the first half. And De Vries, the Mentat from House Harkonnen, was excellent on the back line for Team Chaos.
Big Kiwi, really liked the way he played, especially in the first 20, 30 minutes of this game. Reagan Dunk is a guy that I'm still have some questions about. There were a few 1v1s in this game and for speed that he lost out on in a little bit of a strange position at wingback. I don't think that would be a natural position for him in MLS. He's more likely going to be stuck there on the back line. But I also liked what I saw from Miles Robinson.
Let's go to these highlights, and we look at them here from this first half. Nick DePuy, Doyle and Andrew finally getting an opportunity to put a shot on frame, gets that header away.
Yeah, that's what we wanted to see from him, is get in those positions, get in front of his defender and put one on frame. Couldn't quite get it on goal, though. Into the goal, though.
David Goldsmith setting up Jonathan Lewis. Maybe just a little bit too easy on this one, Doyle. He can't finish, but finds the open space.
Yeah, as Andrew said, one time that with your left foot, and it's a goal.
Knocked back. Bronico pulls this shot just wide. It takes a touch off De Vries, but it would just be a little bit of a preview from him as he would score one of the best goals we've seen in this combine so far later on in this game.
Very nearly a goal there. And like I said, the attacking quality so far much better.
And here's the Bronico goal, and this is
flat-footed, too. No
I mean, that is just a special play from a guy
at that window.
Who has been
Look at that window.
Really impressive.
Not in much of a rush, and Bronico puts that one in. Brant Bronico out of the University of Charlotte. He had a great year last year for them. Once again, 9 goals, 5 assists. We'll be back in just a few moments here on MLSsoccer.com with Ziggy Schmidt for the second half between Team Chaos and Team Tango. From StubHub Center in Carson, California, we're ready for the second half of the final game of the 2017 MLS Player Combine. Team Chaos in orange going left to right versus Team Tango in red going right to left. David Goss joined by Andrew Wiebe, Matt Doyle, and Ziggy Schmidt joining us once again here for the second half. A 1-0 lead through Bronico's goal. Ziggy, before we get into the second half, did anything pop out to you from that first half?
Well, obviously it was a great goal by Bronico. I thought, he helped himself again today. I still like Lewis, even though he missed a sitter, but he still does a lot of things I like. I thought Holland was a little quieter today. Robinson, no real mistakes, but he hasn't done anything where I feel wowed. There hasn't been any wow moments. Cutler for Team Chaos, I thought, had a better half today. DeFries in the back, I thought was okay as well, but outside of that, very average.
Nathan Regis getting on the ball quickly. We'll get you the substitutions coming into this second half. That's Shamit Shom in orange getting pushed off the ball. Now Eddie Sanchez, and he clips it off the hand of Jack Elliott. No call made. A formation change for this Team Tango in red. A four-man back line. Reagan Dunk going to right back. Miles Robinson remains in at center back. Jack Elliott, who just cleared it out of bounds at center back, and at left back, Felix Vobeda. Vobeda, number 72, battling with Sanchez here. Sam Hamilton and Joe Holland in that central midfield once again. They'll play behind Martim Galvao, one of the youth internationals. And then the up top trio for this side, Abu Danladi out wide right, Walker Hume out wide left. And up top, on his own there, is Nico Hansen. Hansen's pass just a little bit too far. We've raved about Nico Hansen's play on the wing. Mm-hmm. We already saw Jonathan Lewis get pushed up top. Is this that last day coaches want to see, hey, maybe is there a little bit more to this player that we didn't expect? We've seen him be successful. Can we potentially be drafting a guy who could do more for us?
Yeah, it's definitely somebody's asked for him to play up there to take a look. Somebody's asked for the same with Lewis, and so now they're going to take a look at him. My own opinion, I think both of them are much better on the flank than they are up top, but certainly it's something you want to see. If they can show that versatility, it maybe moves them up on your draft list because, it's the more places you can play, the easier it is to get on the field at some point.
Been a tough slog so far for Team Chaos, and look, I said the team success isn't the end all be all at the combine. It's all about individual evaluation, but when your team's not playing well, it's hard to just shine as an individual, and we've seen some guys, Brandon Aubrey being one of them, have some trouble, and perhaps the evaluation process being a little skewed by it.
Cutler ripping that cross in, and it'll go out for the throw-in. Brandon Aubrey, as you mentioned, back in for the second half. Colton Storm coming in at right back for Team Chaos in orange. Nathan Regis up top, number 87, and Eddie Sanchez, number 89, in orange for Team Chaos, as this corner kick comes in at the near post, and it gets knocked away. Shamit Shom coming in, it looks like today, at central midfield. He started the week at central midfield, has spent some time out wide right, and he'll get the opportunity to go back in. And Evan Pankin out of Notre Dame will partner him in that central midfield role.
Matt, I'm going to elaborate on your point a little bit. As a coach, sometimes I always told my teams, especially when I had young teams and they were trying to impress national team coaches, I said, if a coach shows up at the game and you're winning, he analyzes your team and tries to figure out why you're winning. And if you're a team that's losing, he looks at your team and says, why are you losing? So as you said, Team Chaos struggling this week definitely hurts some of those players because you're looking at it and said, hey, what's going wrong in their team instead of what's going right.
That's Kyle Bjornthen at left back for Team Chaos. So Francis DeFries, the only one who stays in. So we talked about him a little bit in the first half. Wiebe tried to make up nicknames for him, which obviously won't stick, as Andrew Wiebe is doing at his high level. But we knew he was skilled. We know he's left-footed for a center back. He takes set pieces. He is an international. Where does he stand for you in what is a moderately deep center back class?
I think he's a first-round pick. I think he's probably the fourth center back overall, maybe the fifth if someone falls in love with Justin Schmidt instead. What mattered for me with DeVries were those couple of moments where he kept up with Lewis in tight spaces. I need to know that my center backs are not just going to be orange cones in those spots. And DeVries has frankly looked better than most of the other guys playing that position in this combine, and not just better relatively speaking, but he's actually looked pretty competent in those spots. And that was a big question with him: was would he be quick enough on the turn? And so far, the answer is yes.
You look at this draft. Number 16th pick, Seattle Sounders. Number 17, New York Red Bulls. 18, FC Dallas. 19, Montreal Impact. And 20 are the New England Revolution. You could see those third, fourth, fifth center backs go. All 5 of those teams need center backs. Need center back depth in the case of FC Dallas and maybe the Red Bulls, as well as Sounders with Zach Scott retiring, and maybe even a starter when you're looking at the New England Revolution.
Yeah, I think so. And I think if I was a Revs fan, I would kind of be hoping that DeVries is right there because he fills a lot of needs for that team. I'm not sure the Sounders would be interested because they drafted a guy who's a lot like him last year, Tony Alfaro. But that does seem to be the range for this kid. So, again, maybe somebody saw him and fell in love and is willing to take him 4 or 5 spots higher.
Yeah, center back, not really a position that anyone feels. It seems like when you look at this MLS draft list that they have too much of a luxury at, that they won't take them. You look at the Timbers at number 10, Columbus Crew SC, of course, investing in that position just in front of them, so we'll see what they do. Colton Storm coming back into this game at right back. He's a player, Andrew, that a lot of people that we've talked to have liked at that right back position.
Tough start for him at left back, and that's what Siggy was talking about in the last game, where you're forced to play out of position. But he's looked very good at right back, and now Joe Holland is starting to show his ability. He was quiet in the first half, but he had that bursting run to start the second half here, and you can just see he's got the physical and technical capabilities to leave some players behind on this field.
Trying to get out of a tight space there is Sam Hamilton. Galvao now beats one defender, lays it off for Dunladi coming into the box, and his shot goes high. Abu Dunladi, the first time we're going to see him today. He now has a chance to come back on the field after Ibo Bise played. Wowed a lot of people here and maybe show for himself why he should be number 1.
Well, finishing that would have helped. It was a good run. It was a run off the wing, which is, I think, going to be his position in the league. And we've seen him be dangerous from that right wing earlier in the combine, but it was more as a playmaker. He, of course, had the assist last game, and I think he also had a nice cross from there as well. Getting a right-footed, traditional winger on the right side who can still figure out how to be dangerous, you don't see that all the time. Usually danger is in the modern game is created by inverted wingers. So it's a nice moment from Donladi. And he's a guy who I don't think has hurt his stock at all in this combine.
Coming in to this draft, there was one thing that stood out to everyone. There was 2 6'5" twins in Walker and Tucker Hume. Walker Hume at center back. Tucker Hume back into this game at center forward. Ziggy, the center back brother Walker came in as the higher rated player. Played in a 3-man back line in the first half. Didn't really, I think, shine that much, like you said, similar to Miles Robinson.
No, Walker, didn't shine. His brother Tucker hasn't either. They've been, frankly, a little bit disappointing for me. But neither of them have. I'm not going to say they've played poorly because they haven't done that, but neither of them have shown in a really bright light or done anything special where you say, okay, this sets them apart from the rest of the group at this stage.
Shamit Shom gets this ball rolling all the way back to the right side to Cutler. Cutler curls the cross in over Sanchez's head, hits a defender. It'll go out for a corner kick. Our first of the second half. Ethan Cutler, a late addition to this combine at a Colgate University, started the first half, remains in here for the opening moments of the second half. He's been extremely aggressive, though, in the minutes he's gotten out there on the field.
And that's a service you want to see from him in that position. Hard to the near post. The run was there. It was a little bit early, perhaps, and a little bit of a dummy attempt, perhaps, by Eddie Sanchez. But a good ball put in by Ethan Cutler. He's impressed in this game.
Cutler's done well, and now he's the kind of player who really didn't catch your eye or didn't catch my eye the first 2 games. Has caught my eye a little bit today. I don't know if he's a wide right guy. Is he the kind of guy who could convert into an outside back? His skills, having played forward, make him a skillful outside back and come forward. He's got a good body, good size. Can he run the whole line? Today he's shown well, and that as a coach, that would be going through my mind right now with him.
Pankin on the corner kick, just a little bit too high. Bjornthen trying to keep it alive for his team. It falls to the feet of Holland in red. Team Tango looking to counterattack now. We saw Nico Hansen's ability on the counter in the last game with his basically coast-to-coast goal. That one is a long shot coming in, and it'll go well wide of the goal from Martin Galvao. Galvao, part of the youth internationals that were brought over to train. João Plata, of course, is the one player in that situation in the past that's really shines out. 2 players. Has there been any of the youth internationals that have stood out for any of you guys so far?
Dominico Duro, when they moved into defensive midfield, had some bite. Showed a good range of passing, really tried to control the game from that position. I liked him, but there were a couple times he went out injured, and that's a little bit of a – and injured is the wrong word. It was a knock. They were knocks, but you want to see him – you want to see him be able to shake those things off and move on, and maybe teams look at that and say, mentally, is there something here that we don't like? I'd like to see him move on from those. But we're talking about where these players will end up. Of course, the Super Draft on Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, the live stream at MLSsoccer.com. But you know what we know now as well, where exactly these players might play if they're in MLS.
Holland gets into the box. He's able to make the first defender, then loses possession. Joe Holland, though, you said a quiet first half, so he comes out and he's beat already 2 or 3 defenders here in the second half.
He has. I expect him to play in MLS this year, and the 2017 schedule is now out. The full slate of games at MLSsoccer.com, so go check that out, see where your team's playing, what their openers are, what maybe decision day looks like if you're looking at the playoffs. All 22 teams should be.
And make your travel plans
there
when
you
you
go.
Get to those games.
Yeah, those plane tickets. Cheaper earlier on. I've learned that way. Learned that the hard way a few times.
Exactly, and you can pick better hotels as well.
Team Chaos coming forward. They'll win a corner kick. Ziggy, you coached Seattle most recently, so obviously those Pacific Northwest games were fun. But what was the stadium throughout your MLS career or the market that you really enjoyed traveling to as an away team?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously the Northwest has been fantastic playing at Portland, Seattle. Vancouver's got a good atmosphere. Kansas City has a really good atmosphere now ever since they rebranded, and with their new stadium, it's a fun place to play. DC United early on in MLS was a really fun place to play because the stadium just held the sound really well. So it was fun that way. You never forget about the heat from Miami having to play down there, for sure. And the best heckler in the league was when Dallas used to play in the Cotton Bowl. They had a guy who I went up to him before the game once, shook his hand, and said, "You are easily the best heckler in the league." And he would make me laugh on the bench. He knew everything about.
You were
everybody.
Encouraging him. He probably doubled down after that.
He was good. He knew the names of the kids of my equipment manager, which I thought was absolutely impressive.
Is he a heckler or a stalker? At that
I don't know. He could be one of the two. But I thought he was funny. He made me laugh.
It's a fine line.
Getting into the box now. Team Tango looking to create something. Dunk off to Dunladi. Dunladi clips it into the box. Shot opportunity for Hume. It takes a deflection and it'll go out for a corner kick.
Again, a good little bit of play from Dunladi, just knowing where he wanted to create the danger, the decent ball in. He finds good spots.
We've given a ton of credit. We'll wait for this corner kick. An opportunity coming here for Team Tango. It'll be Joe Holland, as he has taken, at times from both sides, the corner kicks. The right-footed service coming in. Cleared away, accidentally on its own goal, and Movis is able to take it. We've given a lot of credit to Joe Holland. Sam Hamilton, a Denver University player who's partnered him. What have you seen from him? A quiet player here on the ball, cleaning it up, but has been that partnership with Joe Holland throughout this combine.
It seems like he's a guy who has work to do. His touches aren't as clean. His passing isn't really where it needs to be.
As he opens up the play, Nico Hansen beats the goalkeeper, and then the pass knocked away as Movis is able to recover. That pass, of course, from Sam Hamilton over the top.
Yeah, perfect timing. Hamilton looks like a guy, I'm still not sure what his position is. He hasn't done a lot of the work in terms of breaking up plays that you expect out of a defensive midfielder. And he's certainly not the guy to drive the ball forward out of the back.
A chance for Team Chaos. It ends up in the hands of Stefan Cleveland. It looks like Tucker Hume and Nico Hansen playing up top together. Joe Holland shifting out left here a little bit, so a chance to see him in another role. He wore the number 10 at Hofstra, so he played out on the wing and in that number 10 role. And as we've talked about, Ziggy, throughout this, so many players who were the stars in college that are now going to have to find ways to become successful bit players at the next level, at least at the beginning. Joe Holland seems to be maybe one of those who can be a tough holding midfielder after being a number 10 in college.
No, definitely. I mean, you have to be able to change and adapt your game. And, again, like I say, when you look at MLS, where they're going to spend DP money, where they're going to spend TAM money, it's going to be on those attacking central midfielders. Here's a chance.
Nico Hansen in on the right side of the box trying to get by Aubrey. He gets to the end line. He's able to keep it. Nope, it'll go out of bounds. So it'll be a goal kick coming.
So, obviously, as you're looking at it, you're looking at players and saying, okay, where can he fit in? What adjustments do they have to make? A lot of times you got players coming into your program at the professional level, and they don't feel they have to adjust. And those guys, sometimes careers are very short-lived. But then there's other guys who are saying, hey, where can I get on the field, coach? Give me an opportunity. I can do this and that. You see what their tendencies are. You see what they have. And a lot of times those guys are the guys that, push through. Andy Rose, when he played for me in Seattle, was a good example. At UCLA, he was a pure and strict defensive midfielder. But I felt he could do more as a box-to-box midfielder because he liked to stretch those legs and run a little bit. And he became a very effective box-to-box midfielder for us.
Layoff here from Sanchez. Pankin goes to ground. No call made and a clearance made eventually by Robinson. Now Galval looking to open up the counterattack for his side. He's got Dunladi out wide. Hansen next to him. Nico Hansen on the ball now, the New Mexico alumni, and eventually taken off his feet. We talked to Bobby Warshaw in the first half a lot, Ziggy, about this experience as a player, but also what comes next for them. And when you draft a player on draft day, what do you say to them? Because you're not seeing them for preseason for a couple weeks. What do you leave them with as you walk away from that experience and have them go home and start their life all of a sudden in your city?
Yeah, well, you want to make sure that they come in prepared. Now, obviously, it's a short period, and one of the big issues that a lot of kids have when they come into their first pro camp is they think they're fit, but they realize quickly that it's not close to fitness, and they think they play the ball quickly enough, but they realize they play the ball too slowly. So all of those are things, but you want to make sure that they have things clear. You understand where they are with their school situation. Are they finishing up the quarter? Are they dropping out? Are going to try and finish classes? What's their home situation like? Where they live in? Can they take care of all those things so they come into your camp with a pretty clear mind so that they can focus on playing the game?
We've been looking for a 1v1 situation for Miles Robinson for a while, and he got one a few minutes ago there with Nathan Regis. And Regis, injured on the first day, didn't really have the breakaway speed, but good to see Miles Robinson physically come in and dominate and take the ball back.
I think that was kind, Weeby. He looked like he was pulling a tow truck.
Yeah, that he was not going especially quickly there.
Cleveland brings that ball under control. Nathan Regis, as we mentioned earlier on, lit it up in Division II college soccer. Over 30 goals last season. Was a star in PDL as well out of Trinidad and Tobago. Trying to make a name for himself in Major League Soccer potentially as well. Hamilton pushes this one wide. Vobeda coming in field. He'll switch the field to Dunk. Regan Dunk with the clip over the top towards Hume, who gets ahead to it and can't do much more with it.
So again, as a coach, when you look at players, one of the things that's interesting to me in this game is, all good players have a good ego. They're all very proud. They all want to be successful. And so if I'm sitting there and I'm Abu Danladi and I know that I've got a chance at maybe going number one or being a top pick, and Iboise, who hasn't played, comes out and plays and scores a great goal, my pride's going to kick in and say, I want to show everybody now that I'm the number one guy, not him. And I've been a little bit disappointed in Dunladi right now that he hasn't really grabbed hold of the game a little bit more. I would have really wanted to see that. That would have showed me maybe, or giving you a little glimpse of his character.
Blast there from Sanchez. Andrew, we felt like he played that like that on the first day. He came out, his physical presence, his will to win, it seemed like, and want to score goals. As we see the replay of Sanchez's shot, was a difference in the game.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And look, it's 3 games over basically 6 days for these kids. There's a lot to think about. But he's also playing farther out on the wing, whereas in day one he was definitely up top by himself. But you've seen him, as Siggy said, be a little bit unselfish, and that's all fine and good. You want a guy on that wing position that's going to set people up. But I am with Siggy. I want to see him isolate someone and say, you know what, I'm not going to play this simple ball. I'm not going to give it away and hope I get it back.
Holland trying to get in and get a shot away off the layoff from Hume.
Isolate someone. Go 1v1. Get that heavy shot on goal. And as Siggy said, leave something in the minds of general managers and coaches, because we know Dunlawdy has the skill to do that.
Well, the rain has held up here so far. We had a heavy downpour in the first half and the first game here from StubHub Center in Carson, California. The final half of coverage here of the 2017 MLS Player Combine. But, of course, the show doesn't stop. Tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, MLSsoccer.com. The MLS Super Draft of 2017 will be streaming live for you. A whole host of people will help bring you coverage, including Sasha Sorovsky, head coach of the University of Maryland, who told us a little bit about facing off against the mighty Siggy Schmidt's UCLA team in one of his, I think he said his first college soccer game ever with Hartford.
It was his first college game as a head coach with the University of Hartford, and unfortunately we had a pretty good team in those days. You know, Kobe Jones and Chrissy Henderson and a few others, and Kobe Jones beat like 3 players in a 2x2 square and hit a great cross to the back post, and we won. But I'm going to elaborate a little bit, too, on the Dunlawdy thing and playing wide and you know, being a little more unselfish. But, you know, you have situations where, you know, as an example, you take a guy like Jussi Zardes with the national team. You put Zardes wide, and he'll run up and down the line, and he'll still have the energy to get forward. If you try and push Jordan Morris wide, just like if you tried to have Kobe Jones play as a wide player to run the whole line, he'll be honest and he'll defend because he's a team guy, but he just doesn't have the physical capabilities then to produce things on the offensive front for you. And so now you got to dictate, if you play that player wide, do you play a little unbalanced? Do you maybe push him in a little bit higher? And you have to look at it. And Dunlawdy, to me, as a wide player, he's trying to be honest. He's coming back. He's covering right now, but it's taken away from his offensive game. I'd rather see him spend his energy in that half of the field and not in the back half of the field.
Do you think ideally he's a winger in a 4-3-3, or do you think a second forward, or even a number 9?
I think he's more of a winger in a 4-3-3. Second forward is definitely a possibility, but I think you definitely have to have cover behind him and not make him play like he's a wide midfielder who's got to, you know, cover their outside back.
Nana Sinkum returning into this one, playing out wide right. Chris Nanko, 85 in orange, coming back on the field for Team Chaos, as did Robbie Sagal in one of those last stoppages. Nana Sinkum now another throw in here. Reminder, this last day of games, 40-minute halves for these two teams, as these players now have put a lot of minutes on their legs over the last week of play. A final chance for them to show off for the coaches. We knew throughout the week, Ziggy, that these players had their interviews. We've heard from a few different coaches about their style, about what they got from them. Did you ever have a player who sealed it or lost it on an interview for you?
Yeah, we've had a few. You know, I mean, right now I couldn't tell you the name per se, and I probably wouldn't want to tell you the name, to be honest. But, you know, there were guys where when they walked out of the interview, you said, like, wow, you know, and some of them just because they were overconfident, I thought, you know, and just didn't have a good basis of reality of their own game and what they can and can't do. And but then others would go the other way, where you were maybe 50-50 on a player and you interviewed him and you realized some of the things he had come through and what it meant to him to play or get the opportunity, and it maybe pushed him up in your mind as well.
Was there one draft pick that sticks out to you, whether it was a sleeper pick or even a guy you got at the top of the draft, that sticks out to you as was just a phenomenal pick by you?
A phenomenal.
Not to toot your own horn.
a phenomenal
Alejandro
pick.
Moreno.
Moreno in the third round was a little bit of a later pick. Andy Rose we traded for, but I think he was like a fourth-round pick. I thought Andy was pretty good. He was pretty good for that. My first year with the Galaxy, I got Peter Vianis and didn't pick him till the end of the second round, and I was surprised he lasted that far. So I thought he was a pretty good pick at that level as well.
What's your biggest miss? What's the one guy who you look back and you said, "Oh, damn, I should have drafted him"?
Well, we had a shot to get AJ De La Garza, and we were a little bit in discussion. Do we take AJ De La Garza? And at the end, the argument was won. We took Evan Brown, and that was a huge mistake. We should have taken AJ instead.
I'm sure Sasha Sarofsky mentioned that and yelled at you a few times for that.
Exactly. And I was hoping to get Clint Dempsey because I was one of the guys who pushed to get him the Generation Adidas contract. And when he came out and we thought, okay, maybe we got a shot at him. Maybe he'll fall to us with the Galaxy, but he ended up getting taken by New England, and so that was a little bit of a tough one because we actually saw him falling and thought, hey, maybe he'll fall all the way to us. But
is he one of those guys? You show up to the combine. We heard about coaches say with Daniel Johnson, who played really well in the first game for Team Control in White, that they knew about him and they were a little upset how well he played at the combine because they were hoping it would be a sleeper pick, and now everyone else knows.
Yeah. Sometimes you'd want to say to somebody, can you just tell him not to put it all out? I think Lothar Osiander accused me of sandbagging with Sasha Victorine and Vianis when I came out of UCLA, but I really didn't. It's hard to tell a player just take it easy, and if that's easy for him to do, maybe he's not the guy you want.
Nanko getting into the box there and rips that shot. The save made by Cleveland and going in for the corner kick. These players, 1 week opportunity to prove themselves just that little bit more to these coaches. Their professional careers in the balance. Ziggy Schmidt wants them to take it easy, though, so that he can take them later in the draft.
I said it's tough to tell them to take it easy, because they're not, and they're usually not very good at it. I mean, who was, well, here's a classic story, obviously.
Faria.
Yeah, well, Faria, but my first year in Seattle, George John was a player that we were very interested in. Brian Schmetzer, the head coach. Now I had coached George John for about 3 years at the youth level, and he was coming off a little bit of an injury. He had played University of Washington. Nobody really knew about him, and he was coming off an injury. And we said, look, don't worry, we'll pick you. Just, you really have to go. And he went to the combine anyway, even though he's injured. Played okay, but Shellis Heineman, who was coming out of SMU at the time, knew of him, and Shellis ended up picking him with one pick before us, or else we could have had him in Seattle, and we could have endured all the knee injuries he had.
Oh.
Sorry, I didn't mean to pick on George. I like George very much.
George John, an FC Dallas player, under Shellis. Shellis back in college soccer, coaching once again. Of course, going to an MLS Cup final with FC Dallas. His grandson as well, making a transfer, going over to Scotland so far in this offseason for a loan. One of the bright stars potentially for the U.S. men's national team.
Yeah, saw Shellis the other night when I went down to the hotel. I always like Shellis, good guy to hang out with. You feel very safe.
Cross comes in, put all the way across the face of goal. Dunladi runs it down on the far side. An opportunity now to create something. Vobeda gets into the box, and his cross is blocked away. And now a corner kick coming for Team Tango in red. Final 15 minutes of combine action coming up here. 2017 Combine coming to a close. The Super Draft coming up tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern Time on MLSsoccer.com. Galval curls it to the far post. It's knocked away. Sam Hamilton, the first one to it. Hamilton floats it to the near post. Two players open, and no one can put it on frame. And now Shom will look to start the counterattack the other way. He'll get taken off his foot. As we mentioned, preseason just a few weeks away for the 2017 MLS season. Ziggy, the big talking point, Minnesota United FC and Atlanta coming in as expansion teams, both going about it in very different ways so far. What do you see when you look at those franchises for this first year, expectations, what gets you excited, what worries you?
Well, I think the expectations are obviously at this stage much higher for Atlanta. They've been very aggressive in their player acquisition mode. Have spent money in the DP market, have an international experienced coach with a lot of contacts in Argentina, are certainly relying on that to bring in even more players. So all that leads to Atlanta being a very aggressive, very much on the front foot type of expansion team. Minnesota has taken the other approach. They've been a little more in the background. They hired an experienced MLS guy in Adrian Heath, who's been through it before with Orlando. But they're a little bit in catch-up mode, I think, trying to acquire players now, put their team together. They acquired their coach really late. So they're trying to catch up. So I think they're at different stages of their expansion evolution. And right now Atlanta, I think, is a little ahead of the game.
Aubrey.
Atlanta United making some splashy signings. Brandon Aubrey there getting called for the foul on Nico Hansen. Looked like maybe Doyle a little frustration from Aubrey.
Yeah.
Hansen getting that touch right around him. And
Hansen's holding his shoulder now, and you hope it's not a collarbone or anything like that.
Nico Hansen, we talked about a special story. Born in Denmark, grew up in Sacramento, California area, out of the University of New Mexico, was first-team NSCAA All-American this year with 13 goals and 3 assists. He was as well the MVP of the high school All-American game.
Here comes the rain again. Sheets, that drought here in Southern California, getting some respite.
It looks like Martin Galvao on the free kick from the top of the box. Coming as that rain starts to pour down on these players. 10 more minutes to go in this one. Their last opportunity to show off for these coaches.
Who's responsible for this? There's only one dark cloud. It's right over our heads. It's light on the other side. What's this? Is that your fault, Andrew? Is that the reason we're getting this?
Amateur meteorologist, just call me Storm.
Listen, there's been a drought in Southern California, but the combine comes and it rains. It sounds like they need to have a quarterly combine here in Southern California and fly me and Andrew out. Galvao curls this one in to the far post, still alive and put home. All the way across the face of goal, finally buried in the net by Jack Elliott out of West Virginia for his first goal of the combine.
What a header this is to bring the ball back across. The diving header, the athleticism there, the timing to get that across, and a nice, tidy finish.
So Miles Robinson, Ziggy, gave you 2 little flashes in this second half, made the tackle in open field against Regis, and then that header there back across the face of goal to get his team a second goal.
And I'm willing to bet that was Elliott's first ever goal with his feet. He did not look overly clinical with that, but he did put the ball in the back of the net.
Jack Elliott, as I mentioned, out of West Virginia, born in London, England.
And it's been good for Robinson to have some moments, the defensive moment, the attacking moment right now, because that's, as we said earlier, that's something that we're looking for from him, something that you get wowed by a little bit. So he's had a couple of wow moments in this game, and that's important.
Jack Elliott, 6 goals in his career. I can't tell you the exact body part each of them were scored with. I apologize, Doyle, that I didn't bring that level for you. Dunladi gets in the box. His shot saved by Movis.
Even though Movis has been on, I think, the worst team here, he has been, to me, the most impressive goalkeeper. He's German, a couple years older than some of the other guys. He might have to play a year or two in NASL or USL and work towards his green card, but he's been very good.
Corner kick coming here from Jonathan Lewis after he returns to the fold for his side off the bench. Lewis now allowed to play a little bit more in his more comfortable wing position, trying to become the next of a long line of Akron Zip wingers who have made a difference in Major League Soccer. As the rain starts to drive down here at the StubHub Center, it held off just enough for us to get 3 days of coverage in. The final 10 minutes coming here, though. Jonathan Lewis puts that in the side netting on the near post. Overall thoughts, 2017 MLS Combine. Andrew, this was your first one that you've been at. You've obviously followed, covered, watched a lot of them. What was your thoughts?
The on-field stuff is obviously very, very important, and coaches are getting their final evaluations there with these players. But I'm actually more fascinated with what goes on off the field and the interview process and just the scene at the hotel and the meetings. Of course, coaches here not just going through these processes. They met with Pro, and Pro is next door doing VAR experimentations. It's just a good time for the community in MLS to kind of get together and think about the upcoming season and prepare for it. To me, the on-field stuff is not secondary. That's certainly not the case, but you're not taking big picture evaluations away from most of these players. Little nuggets, little things you want to see. If you see them, great. If not, great. But it's agents, it's coaches, it's media. It's everyone getting together and prepping for the 2017 season.
Tanner Thompson pushes it out wide. Nanko getting on the ball now. And Volbeda makes the tackle in open space. Ziggy, for yourself, of course, not your first combine. You've been around here for a couple of years. What stood out to you both on, off the field throughout this week?
Well, I think Andrew hit on a key part. It's all the stuff that goes on off the field, which, to be quite frank with you, I really don't miss, to a certain extent, because having normally as a coach, my phone would have been buzzing about 20 times per game from an agent. Hey, how'd my guy do? What you think of my guy? Hey, can you look at this guy? I got him, and so you don't miss all that. I don't miss the real bar scene and all the interaction that you do at the end. I was talking to somebody from the league, and they were saying, I got to go up into my room because if I sit down the bar, I get bugged every 3 minutes. So I don't think people realize that it's not just watching the games. It's a 24/7 type of experience. The games are really something that becomes the icing on the cake. It confirms or one way or another your feelings about players. It draws your attention sometimes to some guys, and there's some sleepers that pop out of nowhere. But it's more a confirmation than it is an open assessment.
Shamit shown with the big switch of the field, and then Nanko has to take it off by Volbeda, throwing for Team Chaos in orange. Last final minutes for these players to try and show off for these coaches. Doyle, you've covered the last, I believe, 5 combines. What was your takeaway so far? Where do you stand going into the draft or just from this combine experience?
Well, I think that they got the Generation Adidas kids right. Not the Canadian Generation Adidas kids. It's too early for me to make a judgment on Shom, who has not been impressive. But, that's maybe just combine nerves or something. But I think the 5 kids out of college are actually the top 5 on my big board. And I will have my second and final mock draft out later tonight. You want the preview? I still have Evobise, Robinson, and Don Lottie 1, 2, and 3. I've moved Jonathan Lewis up to 4, and I think Ewell will be in there at number 5. I think those are the top 5 players here. I think we're much more likely to see the teams that are making those picks change than we are to see the players themselves change.
If Jonathan Lewis does drop down to that 4-5 area in Akron Zip, that could potentially be going to Columbus Crew SC, a guy who likes to get out in open space down on the wings, could be a useful player, could find a comfortable spot at Crew SC as that ball gets cleared away.
I almost feel like Ewell would be the better fit for Columbus given their needs. I think he could do a little bit of what
headed over the crossbar.
He can do a little bit of what Federico Higuain does in terms of moving around a bit. He's not a number 10 who sits underneath a forward and gets goal dangerous. He's more a guy who controls the geometry of the game. So I think that would end up being a good pick for Columbus if he's there and if they're there.
If Nana Sinkum drops this ball back, Finn Cleveland puts it out wide. For the players who were signed, the seniors that were signed, Zico Lewis, Brandon Aubrey, Brian Wright, Julian Gressel coming into this one. Who has stood out for you guys that you believe will be a difference maker or could be a big pick in the first round?
Gressel. He's the one who I think Zico Lewis as well, but Gressel is the one who caught my eye as, there are about 3 different spots I could put him into and feel pretty comfortable with him out there.
Does anyone stood out for you guys?
I would agree. Gressel's been the one. Zico Lewis is probably next. Brian Wright is maybe next, but I think he's maybe dropped a little bit, and Aubrey as well has dropped a little bit. But I think definitely Gressel and Lewis, Zico Lewis, are the guys who've sort of held their position.
If you're talking about some question marks, I think Ja'Cory Hayes still has a question marker by his name just on position. And that's something that teams are going to look at and say, I'm not sure where he'll play for us or where he would be most effective for us. I think the right backs, when they played right back, have looked pretty good. Aduiachim has looked good. Nowinski's looked good. Reagan Dunk maybe has some work to do. Players like, but if coaches like his film in college, he could get by without that. But I think that position is one that you look at as far as outside backs go. And we know that's a spot in the Super Draft. Those could be guys that come in and get some spot time in year one.
Cleveland can't get a calm touch on that one. He puts it out for another corner kick. The final few seconds here of this one. We appreciate everyone out there for following along with us on MLSsoccer.com. Of course, your upcoming schedule is loaded. MLS Super Draft coming up tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. That one's streaming on the website as well as on ESPN 3 as Bjornthen gets into the box, cuts back, and then it's cleared away. As me and Andrew mentioned, we sat down with about 10 or 12 head coaches and executives in the league.
Chip 'em.
Galvao away. He chips the goalkeeper, but he misses the frame with Robert Movis out of his goal, and that'll be the final kick of the game, and that'll continue. That will conclude our 2017 MLS Player Combine coverage here at the StubHub Center. A week, 6 games, 3 each for every player. We talked about a lot of the players who stood out. They'll learn where they're going. We know we're 10 players.
Combine.
We know that 10
Team
players have
playoff
already
0,
signed
Team
with Major League
Tango
Soccer.
2.
A number more to come throughout the rest of this week for the draft, and then upcoming the opportunity to try out and play either USL and as well in Major League Soccer. Let's look at the highlights from this one. A good first half between these two teams, competitive back and forth. We finally saw Nick DePuy get an opportunity on goal, Ziggy.
Got in front of his man and knocked it through. Excuse me, Ziggy.
No, go ahead.
I hear the name Ziggy, and I just go right into it. But I want to see a little bit better finishing there from him, but a good run.
Jonathan Lewis, an opportunity in front of goal. Doyle mentioned, is one of the highest risers, the Generation Adidas players, at this combine, this layoff as well, if you want to call it that, from Brant to Brant Bronico. And Ziggy Brant Bronico scoring one of the best goals we saw in this competition later on in that first half.
He does well. He lifts his head, and the goal he gets, he sees the opening there, and he just bends it into the corner. So, and it was well finished.
Bronico, you see here, as Ziggy said, picks his head up, curls it in, and kisses it off the underside of the crossbar for the opening goal in this one. Team Tango in red taking a 1-0 lead. Abu Danladi coming off the bench in the second half was effective, but not as effective as we'd seen him, Doyle, in other games.
Yeah, but I do like the effort he put out there. That was something that I had heard questioned about him, but he wasn't dominant, but he wasn't nothing, and I think that's what he needed to show.
The last few opportunities for these two teams. And the final goal here, Miles Robinson, the stretching header. Jack Elliott with the finish, center back to center back for our last goal of combine play.
What a header there from Miles Robinson. And Siggy said it, we're looking for wow moments from him. That's definitely a wow moment athletically, timing-wise with his head. A couple good defensive moments, but maybe not put under the pressure we would have liked to see to evaluate him during these 3 games.
Well, that's all for us here at the StubHub Center. For Andrew Wiebe, Ziggy Schmidt, Matt Doyle, thank you so much for joining me, and we hope you enjoyed listening to us. For myself, David Goss, our head producer, and our fearless leader, Abner Sevis, and everyone else part of these productions, thank you so much for watching, and stick to MLSsoccer.com for all of your 2017 MLS Super Draft coverage.